Digital photography made simple.
Hello again and welcome back to D1to1. On this segment today, we're going to show you how to keep your cameras steady. Now, most of us have smaller cameras like this, and there's many factors as to why we're going to see movement in our photos. For the very fact that there's so little, we like to shoot them with one hand, but that's no way to hold your camera. The other thing is, we're using our finger, and we might just trigger the camera down a little bit. All those little factors are going to make a difference in getting a steady shot. Whereas in a pro camera or a prosumer camera, we're forced to use two hands. One hand under the lens, one hand on the back of the body. It's almost like a mini Steadicam. Let's get into that habit with these smaller cameras. Now let me show you a few other tools that we could use to keeping our cameras steady. Okay, now it's pretty obvious we have image stabilization in our cameras, and it's good to use that. However, it's not the only time we need to keep our cameras steady. Tripods and monopods are also great tools for keeping our cameras steady. Now, pros will use these, but we don't have to be a pro to think like one. And there's a couple other smaller tripod versions. We have our grip pods, which actually have the legs that sort of bend around like an octopus, and we have smaller versions of a tripod. So next time you're thinking about keeping your camera steady, you might want to invest in something like this. However, we're going to show you a few tricks and tips on using some household items for keeping your camera steady. Remember, we want to keep our cameras steady. We don't want to take a blurry image. You know, there's a couple other ways other than our tripod to keep our camera steady. And what I'd like to show you is some simple tricks here that we can utilize some simple items to do so. One obvious thing is if you carry a camera bag, you can actually use your camera bag to steady your camera, where we can actually lean it with the bag open, or we can lean it on top by placing our camera on top of our bag. That's one way to keep the camera steady. And now these are also good if you want to get in the shot and put it on self-timer. The other thing I like to do is I like to keep a Ziploc bag with me. It's easy, you can fold it up, and it's extremely light. You don't have to worry about a large tripod, especially if you're at the beach or a playground like this where you have sand available, because that's where you're going to use the Ziploc. You put sand in the Ziploc. It becomes a nice heavy base for the ground, or you can even put this on a table or on top of a cooler, or if you're at the beach, maybe on a rock or a piece of driftwood. But it's the sand itself contained in the Ziploc that's going to give you your stabilization. Put it on self-timer, you run in the shot. Now another easy trick to do is you have a jacket or a windbreaker, and I'm going to use this kind of sheet here to show you how to curl up a piece of fabric, which you can also use like your sandbag. What I like to do is, starting with my wrist and fist, is bring it around to a conical shape and just sort of plant it this way, and then place your camera right on top of the fabric like that. Your jacket will do just as well, or a t-shirt or anything you have, or if you have a beach towel. The thing is, you place your camera on top the same way, put the camera on self-timer, and you run in the shot. Hey, that's going to keep your camera steady and you won't get a blurry shot. All right, now the simplest way to keep your camera steady is to use your body and use your head, because you want to use your viewfinder. Holding two hands, bring your camera up to your eye and let it rest right on your forehead. Like a tripod, we're using 3 points of stabilization, our arms and our forehead. And at D1to1, we encourage you to look for a camera with a viewfinder. Even though a lot of them out there don't have them, to be a better photographer and use the stabilization process a little better to our advantage, viewfinders are actually a good thing to have for this very reason. Now another thing we can do by using our bodies is to find something to lean against, like a tree or a wall, and hold ourselves up, steady our cameras with two hands, take the shot that way. A lot of times people tend to just use one hand in these small cameras, and they're going to waver out here in front of them and take the shot, and what's going to happen is when they take the shot and press the shutter, their finger also helps drag the camera down. We don't want that. That's going to create blurry shots. Another thing we can do to stabilize our camera and using our bodies is to literally use your knee. Lean back, you can check out your shot in your screen, use your knee to stabilize it and take the shot, especially for low lighting situations. It's a great way to stabilize your camera. Now one of the things I also want to mention that I think are very important is when we use our bodies, breathing. We want to shoot on the exhale of a deep breath. Shooting on the inhale or just breathing normally and not paying attention is what's going to also create us to be sort of insecure. We want to keep stable. So a deep breath, come down on the exhale, and watch how easy it is to press the button on the shutter. Try that. I encourage you to experiment with that one. So for more tips and tricks like this, watch us here on D1to1, and we look forward to seeing you on our next segment.